Joining us now is Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clarke. Sheriff Clarke, Americans are expected to organize in Milwaukee. How has your police force been advised to deal with these protests? What are you planning?
Well, first of all, if it's a protest, it's fine, but this is a resistance movement, and I've given very strict orders that the first time a rock is thrown, the first time a window is smashed, property damage, vandalism, the first time an officer is injured, that the crowd is to be dispersed, and they're to use all reasonable means to keep the peace. That's what the main objective is, to preserve life and property.
Sheriff, I know that you've been watching these protests across the country, and a lot of them are expected demonstrators at these Republican town halls that will be happening in the coming week. And in fact, there's an anti-Trump kind of booklet, or at least guidelines, put out by one organization who was backed President Obama in terms of resistance. Do you worry that these protests and demonstrations will become increasingly violent in the coming not just days and weeks, but even months?
No, I don't worry about it at all, because we have the means and we have the law on our side with which to deal with this resistance. There's a difference between resistance and protest. With protest, the people would accept the underlying premise that the government has the right to carry out a policy, but they think it's the wrong policy to pursue, and they're protesting that. But in the resistance movement, they are stopping the government from exercising their authority under the Constitution to carry out that particular property. But look, you know, these people are like petulant children stomping their feet with these childlike nursery rhyme slogans, hey, hey, ho, ho. That stuff is stupid. It's very juvenile behavior. But that's quite all right if they want to act like that. Look, I think Donald Trump, and I really believe this, he has a chance to be the Winston Churchill of the 21st century if he continues to focus on what he talked about during the campaign and what he still continues to talk about in terms of making America great again, making America safe again. I believe that he will be that Winston Churchill of the 21st century. So the big thing for him is to just stay focused. They're trying to intimidate him into inaction. They're trying to deny him his lawful position as President of the United States. He is the President of the United States. He's the President of all people. I know he's the President. I was in Washington, D.C. during inaugural week. I saw him put his hand on the Bible and take the oath and be sworn in. And so he is the President of all people. That doesn't mean all people have to like him, but all people must respect him as the 45th President of the United States.
Sheriff Buck Sexton here. I have law enforcement in my family. I worked for the NYPD for a time. And everyone that I speak to on the law enforcement side is happy that they feel like they have a commander-in-chief now, which means, of course, also a DOJ, a Justice Department, and a federal bureaucracy behind it that is going to be taking a different tone towards law enforcement. We've heard a lot recently about how the intelligence community and other places in the government have been difficult for this president. I think that the way law enforcement feels about this president is underreported. I don't think we hear much about it, and I wanted your sense of what you're hearing from those in the law enforcement community about the change in tone and what their expectations are for how they'll be supported in, for example, situations like dealing with protesters, where clearly in the previous administration there was often a very anti-police vibe behind much of what was done.
Well, look, I talk to law enforcement officers all across the country, and we are relieved at this point. You know, it's going to take time to bend this curve back, this anti-police sentiment, but we know we have the overwhelming majority of support of the people that we serve in these communities. But we got rid of that echo chamber in Barack Obama, who led the chorus in this anti-police rhetoric. So now that that's gone, and you heard the clip, Donald Trump continues to, you know, prop up the police, give them that sort of moral support that we need, because look, we don't ask for anybody's pity. We're not asking for anybody to feel sorry for us. All we expect is that the rule of law prevail, and if something goes wrong in this dynamic world that we operate in, this world of uncertainty, that the rule of law is applied to how the thing is dealt with and not the cries of an angry mob. I think Donald Trump, the best move he made, and I asked this of him during the campaign, I said, just appoint an attorney general who's going to see the American police officer as an ally in the pursuit of justice and safer communities instead of the enemy, because under Barack Obama, Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch, the cop was the enemy and the crooks were the good guys. The crooks became the victims. And so now that's been reversed, but we've been dealing with this for 2 years. It's going to take some time before the American law enforcement officer is fully understands and is fully confident that the rule of law will be on their side when they do have to do some unpleasant things that they do, you know, in the world of policing. But as long as we stick to the Constitution, the code of ethics, the policies and rules of our agencies, we'll be fine.
Sheriff, I want to get your reaction to the meetings that are going to be taking place this week that the Chicago Police Department is expected to meet with the Department of Justice or officials from the DOJ this week to reform the police department after an investigation found officers using excessive force against minorities. Do you think that has been used? Is this really an attack on the police department? What do you expect to come out of this meeting?
Look, that report under that cop-hating DOJ led by Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, and President Obama, that report was junk, it was garbage, it was full of lies. None of that stuff in that report, and I saw it, none of it is true. Look, here's what needs to happen in Chicago. We finally have an Attorney General in Jeff Sessions who gets it, who supports the police and supports the rule of law. What has to happen is they have to untie the cops right now in Chicago are operating with one hand tied behind their back. You have to let the law enforcement officers use everything they can under the rule of law, under the Constitution, to beat back this criminal element. They have tied the hands of the Chicago Police Department. The ACLU and Black Lives Matter are making policy decisions for the Chicago Police Department. That is the craziest thing I've ever done. So the first thing the DOJ needs to do is get rid of that report, start over with a clean slate, apply the rule of law, and see the crooks and see the gang members, the gangbangers, and the drug dealers as the enemy, and that's who we're in pursuit of. And we'll do it within the Constitution and the rule of law, and everything will be fine. But here's what else has to happen. The black community has to play a role in this. The black community can no longer stand by and watch this cultural rot of the black underclass, not the entire black community, the black underclass. They have to start to shame and shun this cultural dysfunction that goes on, that is played out by the black underclass, the things that the left likes to look at as something to embrace, that they say it's part of the culture. No, it's not. I've been black all my life. That's never been a part of this black culture. Selling dope, taking care of disputes or settling disputes with force, intimidating your friends and your neighbors with weapons, selling poison, selling dope to other people. That has never been a part of the black community. Right. But black people, black leaders are going to have to stand up in the city of Chicago and start to shun this cultural rot that has overtaken this city.